You good? Good evening. This is August 25th. It's the meeting of the Hyde Park Central School District Board of Education here at the district office. May I have a motion to enter executive session to discuss confidential matters pertaining to the employment and future employment of a particular person or persons, please?
So second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. We're now in executive session. Thank you for your patience. We're ready. May I have a motion to exit the executive session, return to open session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There are no agenda modifications. May I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Thank you. At this time, we will have our public hearing on Smart Schools Investment Plan.
Open the public hearing, please.
We need a motion to open? Okay. May I have a motion to open the public hearing on Smart Schools Investment Plan?
So second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Okay, we're now in public hearing. At this point, Mr. Worth will give us a short presentation, and we'll accept any questions.
Try to make it flamboyant, too.
Say again?
Try to make it flamboyant,
Oh, as
Yeah.
flamboyant, if you'd like me to sing it.
as interesting as technology can be.
Okay. So, good evening, everybody. Rick Wirt, Director of Technology. And the Smart Schools Bond Act, as you know, is $2.6 million, was allocated to Hyde Park School District by the state of New York for about 5 different categories. We can install high-speed broadband and/or Wi-Fi, which we're in pretty good shape with. We can acquire learning technology and equipment, and then there's 2 categories we're not really looking at. That's replacing trailers, which luckily we don't have, and installing high-tech security features. We're doing a lot of that through our existing F&O funds, so we're actually in pretty good shape. So actually right now, we're dedicating the bulk of the funding to learning technology and a little bit towards technology upgrades I'll talk about in a second. Again, we have about $2.6 million allocated. There's no clock on this. There's no timeline. You don't have to spend it in 5 years. So we can actually take our time and do bits and pieces. So in the proposal that I've placed on the website for the last 30 days that you have as well, we've encumbered about $1.7 million of that. And that is mainly for Chromebooks and flat screen televisions in the district. We can't use the funds for PD or for technical support. What did happen is there's a board subcommittee, the technology subcommittee, that designed a wish list and criteria. Working from that, we basically designated the first $1.7 million. Moving forward, that committee will look at the remaining funds, how things are rolling out, what do we need to tweak, what do we need to change, and what do we need to look at for purchases in the future. And within that funding, we've allocated money towards the non-public schools. Of the 3 or 4 entities that are in our school district boundaries, only one expressed an interest, and that was St. Peter's School. And I've worked with the principal down there, Mrs. Trout, and she's given me her wish list, and that money is actually incorporated into the purchases for this round. So what do we do for phase 1? $1.7 million towards classroom learning technology. And again, this is a district-wide view. And my goal was to encumber the money now so we don't have to keep doing multiple submissions. So there's 250 touchscreens, Chromebooks for the staff throughout the district. The goal right now is to outfit the secondary. Over time, we'll then push those down to the elementary as well. But the money's encumbered to supply every faculty member a touchscreen Chromebook. We've been able to purchase some of those already for the FDR staff, so it takes out a bulk of what we need to purchase. 3,200 Chromebooks accounts for 6th graders over the next 5 years, plus the FDR students. And again, we have quite the Chromebook fleet already of around 1,500 units, so many of our students are covered. Interactive flat panels. It's a very exciting time in the Old Tech Services Department and facilities. Mr. Garcia was able, with Linda Steinberg helping us out, we found out a BOCES piece. They've sent us a person. His sole job has been installing flat screens for us in Haviland. So in the space of 2 weeks, 90 flat screen televisions now on the wall at Haviland, waiting for teachers to come back for them. It's actually phenomenal. We're going to be able to continue that work as we look at FDR, as we look at the elementary schools. And in speaking with the elementary principals today about this, they're very excited about the possibility about those flat panel screens being in every instructional space throughout the district. So I have their input. I'm going to continue working with the tech committee, but we're on the beginning cusp of that work now. And then theater quality projectors. I'm not talking $10,000 projectors, but I'm talking about projectors that we no longer have to have in a cart and moving around and damaging bulbs. They actually would be permanently affixed. They would be large screen and high quality. So that's also in the plan. Within that, we've allocated $330,000 for school connectivity. What we've discovered in the Haviland project is we still do need wired ports in our classrooms. The wireless is fantastic. It's high quality. It will support the Chromebooks. But if I want to show video, every person that we've been speaking with, all of our consultants tell us that these things need to have a wired connection. The wireless will just, there's too much lag that comes into it. So when the wireless ports were put in, one of the existing ports was used for that. And then one port is used for our computer and our desktop and our phone in the classrooms, leaving us with nothing. So we need to install another port in the instructional spaces to support the technology that's coming in. Plus right now, if you walk into Haviland, every port is behind a door. We'd like to be able to give a little more flexibility to the room arrangement by adding a second port maybe a little bit further away. It lets teachers have a little more flexibility in how they set up rooms and allows us to bring more technology in. So what happens next? This is the Board of Education presentation, the second one. This is also the public hearing, if anybody wants to chime in. We also, again, we had the plan posted on the website for 30 days. There was a link to a comment. We had 3 comments. They came down to good job, Rick, nice work, and looks thorough. That's the feedback that we received on the public website. Final plan, if that is approved tonight, it gets submitted to the State Ed Department. They have a review process. Right now, their state committee meets quarterly. I'm believing that the next meeting is somewhere in October, November. Should they approve the plan then, we can begin purchasing through our existing funds, and then we're reimbursed by the state for those funds. And the turnaround, if you read the timelines, is about 4 to 6 weeks, so it's not a horrendous amount of time for the money to come back. The work that needs to continue regardless of all that is planning for the remaining funds. And again, we have close to $1 million left in our bank of that bond act that is ours to spend on technology or security or replacing trailers. And other tech news, I don't know if we want to go to this now. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so a phenomenal amount of work was undertaken this summer. I can't even begin to thank the people that are in the back room. Therese McKenna, who you all know is in the back there, along with Chance, Bobby, our new guy, Matt Almy, and Michelle Besnier. They never stop. It's amazing to see them work. They go far beyond the hours of their day. They're known throughout the district for just, they'll help you, they'll get it done, and you'll be up and running again. So without them, I don't know where we'd be. They're a phenomenal group of people. We also had 3 summer interns. These brave souls came in every day unpaid, volunteered the time, and we worked them. They worked. We had Liam, Cameron, and Roger. Unfortunately, Liam is off at college, but his mom is here. So would you be willing to come on up and take a certificate for Liam from the board as a means of thank you? And again, we couldn't have done it without Liam. He's a computer sciences kind of guy.
Right.
He loved the work. He was right there and pulling the wires and plugging the wires in and doing everything we needed to do. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
sure.
And please,
Thank you.
thank-
He
thank you.
really, he was glad to help.
First care package that you send them, you can
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. He really enjoyed it.
oh, it was great. Thank you. We couldn't have done it without him. He had two friends. Roger Gill is often here for board meetings. Unfortunately, he is home with a very sick right now, but he'll be fine. He'll recover. And then Cameron is off on vacation with his family, but when he comes back, we'll certainly thank him on behalf of the board. And again, those three were fantastic. Some of the work, we're going to have an unveiling sometime this fall for the FDR Claudio Coppola Lab. This is the old Mac lab right across in the auditorium. Those Macs are rather dated. We updated them with some amazing machines, video graphics editing machines. And the teacher's very happy with the equipment that's going in. We're putting a really good high-quality projector in there, new furniture on behalf of F&O. Part of that funding came from the Claudio Cares Gala that happened back past this year. Coppola's donated that money, and I'm going to tell you that room is going to be an amazing, amazing place. In addition to that, we have the Project Lead the Way Computer Sciences Lab upstairs at FDR. That's Maggie Schimmelfennig's room. That also will be updated with new technology, including a flat screen presentation unit. Again, at Haviland, 900 student Chromebooks are ready and waiting to go. Mr. Shaw, Ms. Silke, the Haviland administration team, the teachers, and the tech committee, we have a really good plan in place for how those things will be managed, handed out, monitored, checked with students. There's a training program for teachers and for families. I think we're in really good shape. The fund will be seeing how it all shapes up as the year goes on. We're going to be watching this closely. It's the district's first one-to-one technology program, and it's going to become the model for how we do this throughout the district. So the goal is that after training for families and for kids, the kids are given a Chromebook. They can take it home with all the appropriate training and resources, and it is theirs to use as long as they're a Hyde Park student. We're pretty excited about it. 90 flat panels I spoke about. We had some Windows XP machines in the district, rather old desktops, and the crew again went around, found those XPs, pulled them out, and everything's updated to Windows 7 or better now. So, which is great because, as you may know, Windows XP is no longer supported by Microsoft. So we were making ourselves a little vulnerable by updating. We're in a safer place. We are really catching up with our software purchases and licensing. We're running a lot more through BOCES for the CoServe to bring money back into the district. And I'm feeling like we really do have what we need. We're looking at some really interesting stuff with credit recovery for the high school students through online credit recovery. So feeling good about that. This Monday, we are hosting the NICEGate Google Summit. This is something that Corus Temple and the tech committee started. And we're just sort of bringing it to a finish. At this point, we have about 90 teachers from the area, the bulk of them from Hyde Park. About 90 people are signed up for that summit. It's on hands-on learning right down at the Wallace Center all day Monday. And then Tuesday, Hyde Park teachers will come back together and talk about their current lessons and what can they do to enhance them through technology. And then we'll meet again somewhere in October and kind of, well, how did it go? So it's a long-term view about incorporating technology in the classroom. And the last thing is going to be a lot of fun. We are finally coming in compliance with state audit that says we should have a 90-day password policy. So we're doing it. So every 90 days, teachers will get a little pop-up message that says, time to update your password. So we've been very busy back in tech. We're looking forward to it, and I'll take any questions about the Smart Bond if you have them.
Could you explain a little bit more about people watching from the on the TV see 900 Chromebooks being out,
Right. What does that mean?
and the 3,200 number in the previous slide.
Right.
So you're not buying 3,200 Chromebooks.
Right, not right all at
Yeah,
once.
All at once. Okay.
Right. So we bought 900 because the plan was to outfit all of Haviland students with a Chromebook this year. So everybody in grades 6, 7, 8 will be given a Chromebook. It's a loaner, it's not a permanent. And then next year, at the end of the year, the incoming group of 5th graders coming to 6th grade will be given a Chromebook as well. Then the following year, another group of incoming 6th graders will be given a Chromebook. So that 3,200 represents not the Haviland kids currently, but incoming 6th grade for the next 5 years, plus FDR, because the goal is that we outfit FDR concurrently. And that within the next 3-4 years, every child grades 6 through 12 will have a Chromebook in hand.
So the 8th graders who use Chromebooks in the middle school. The following year, we'll have Chromebooks to use in ninth grade.
Exactly.
Same students, same Chromebook, or are they?
Ideally, they'll be able to hold on to the Chromebook
Okay.
all the way through, but we also know the lifespan of these things is 3 to 4, maybe 5 years if you're lucky. So
Okay.
part of that number is just keeping the stock updated.
Okay.
Yes.
What software is going on the Chromebook for the students to use?
So the Chromebook it's a thin client. So what that means is everything is web-based. So the Google Suite, that's the mail, calendar, documents,
Okay.
spreadsheets, forms. There's really not a lot of software that you install.
But they have forms and the spreadsheet, so they have like a word processing?
Yes.
And they have access to that?
Yes.
So that they can use it for homework?
Exactly.
Okay.
And if the child has wireless, it's very simple. You're on, you move it along. If the child doesn't have wireless at home, because the Chromebook is a wireless device, part of what the teaching will be is that you can turn your Google Chromebook into like a little laptop, and your documents will be there. When you get home, you can still bring them up. It's just a little setting you have to change. So there'll be adaptability for them as well.
Great.
Okay?
So this is a question my wife asked on the road today. What happens if the student loses their Chromebook?
So the way I've been trying to work with through this whole process is I keep thinking, what would you have done 30 years ago with the library book? So same thing, kid loses the library book. The first thing you had to do is decide, well, was it a bad thing or was it a mistake? So you deal with it from that, you find out what happened. And then, regardless, the kid needs the book. So you're going to give them another one. Or if it's really that they can't handle that responsibility, they just won't be able to take it home, but they'll always have one to use in school. And we have to make sure that as teachers, if we know the child can't handle the responsibility of a Chromebook and they don't have access to something at home, that the work we assign them can be handled within that. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
How
the
are we going to
question,
legislate that? I mean, they're going to be in different classes at the end of the day.
Right. So what's happening is that's part of the policy. So on the web page, you can go to the one-to-one device homepage, and there's a whole student, faculty, parent handbook that kind of gets into that. The legislation is about, first part is making sure the kids are ready for this. So there's a digital citizenship training. It's an online curriculum. It's free, and it's really very well done. The teachers are taking the responsibility of teaching that curriculum to kids through the middle of October. That's checkpoint 1. Kid has to complete that curriculum. Checkpoint 2, the parent has to complete a training session, either in person or online. And then checkpoint 3, they have to sign the agreement. If they do all 3 of those things, they get the Chromebook. If they handle the Chromebook well, great. If there's a mistake, again, you investigate. If the kid's not handling the responsibility, then you have to fall back to, okay, only in school. Does that make
Okay, and
sense?
so
Good
that
answer?
decision goes out to all teachers?
Yes. The teachers are going to be mad
All
at
that students' teachers, right?
Yes, and
Okay.
administration, school administration. It's,
All right.
you know, I keep coming back to that analogy. If you give the kid a textbook and they rip it up, you know, you just can't keep giving them textbooks to rip up.
back to the question about signing, it's the student signs it or the parent signs it?
Both,
Both.
yeah. So the student signs off the responsibility, the parent signs off, because there's a financial implication. These are $250 units. If the child destroys the Chromebook intentionally, the parent does have to pay that as if they destroyed a library book for $15. They have to make that funding up.
Or an $80 textbook.
So a question with the plan now.
Yeah.
You didn't say the number of flat screens and projectors. How many is that you're planning on getting?
Right, so part of this is estimating based on Haviland. I'm working with the FDR administration to determine the exact number, but I use a fairly round number of 100 for FDR, 100 flat screens, but there are differences in sizes. So this is a 70-inch. We bought 65-inch monitors for most of the classrooms, and then a 40-inch for the smaller spaces. So that number can fluctuate a little bit, so I can't give you an exact number. We're still working out the details. And then for the elementaries, I basically figured out 3 classrooms per grade level times 4 buildings, 12 times 6 grade levels, and did the math that way, so another 100 on top of that. So they're very round numbers at this point. The nice part about the Smart Bond Act is what you're doing is essentially encumbering the money. As you actually go through the purchasing, you can actually do additional submissions to shuffle the money around as well and change the figures. So it's really a spending plan that we're creating with this. The actual spending will follow. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
And projectors, are you looking just for the secondary schools?
Projectors, we're looking at limited spaces, so auditoriums would be one. Gymnasiums are actually a really interesting place we're considering. We have a kind of a neat idea we're working on where if you have a projector pointed at a wall, that's wonderful. But if you ceiling mount a projector and point it at the floor becomes a presentation space. And there are interactive games around those that are really very interesting. So we're looking at some neat things with that, but I need to work with the PE staff to make sure that's what they want. So we're not buying a lot of projectors. Projectors are notoriously expensive to maintain. Bulbs, their lifespan, the whole bit. These guys will last us a good 10 years ideally. So we're not actually buying a lot of projectors. We're buying a few really good ones.
Okay.
Okay?
Rick, the Chromebooks we're handing out to the kids, do they include any security features, something that would allow us to possibly trace a missing one?
Yeah, that's a common question. You can buy additional programs, but even through our Google Management Console, which we have, we use currently, we can shut down a Chromebook from a distance. We can put it into what we call kiosk mode with a message that says return to Hyde Park schools. That's as long as the kid's connected to a network. There are additional programs we're looking at. We're still kind of weighing this and seeing, do we want to go to this level? But it's almost like, I forget what the name is, a low jack for a car. You can set it off an alarm. So we're kind of still looking at those features, but Google has quite a bit built into it already that we think might answer most of our questions. But a lot of this is again, our first foray into one-to-one. We really kind of want to see how it goes before we put out a whole bunch of money on programs we may not need. Okay? Yeah.
I'm sorry, just I don't understand exactly how this all works, so you'll have to set me straight.
It's okay, yeah.
How about limiting access, and I don't think we can do this with the item itself, but limiting access to inappropriate sites on the internet because of that. I know we can do that in our schools because
Of our web filtering.
because of the web
Right.
filter, but I don't think that we can do that with the actual item itself. Is that true?
So what we've been doing is we have been sending Chromebooks home with my staff, the tech staff, and I even brought one home to my children, my 18-year-old son, and I said, do your worst. See if you can get to these really bad places. To some level, the filtering does work. In the student parent handbook, it's very explicit that at home, you should be in view of your child using your computer. You should see what they're doing, and your filtering should be set as well. So there's a certain amount of responsibility that a parent has to take when devices like this come into the house.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
But I'm just worried that also, the other thing is true. I mean, there are not many, but there are some people that don't want the technology in their house.
And that is an option.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't going to be something that's going to be required in curriculum for them to have. I
No.
mean, they'll have access at school to do the work.
Right.
Okay.
We've heard actually two voices. One is, we already have technology at home, we don't need any more. I don't want my kid bringing it home because they'll break it. And that's fine. If the parent just doesn't want the kid to have it, period, and there is no technology at home, that's okay too. What we need to build into our practice as teachers is making sure the child has a way to do any assignments that are required online within the school day. If that makes sense. Yeah. It's a scary world we live in. We're giving the kids the keys to the world with a Chromebook, with access to the internet, and it does require us as the adults to be there with them, to help them make the judgments of what's okay and what's not okay. But the reality is we can't bury our heads in the sand either. This is the world the kids live in, and they have access to stuff no matter if we like it or not. So my hope is we can educate our families as well as our kids about how to use these appropriately.
Good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and we are already planning on doing some internet safety. We have a great Sergeant David Spinda of the New York State Troopers has been to the schools a couple times, done a fantastic presentation on internet safety. He works with kids and with adults. We're going to try and have him come back a couple times this year to do presentations, mainly at the middle school, but also high school and elementary schools.
Great.
He does have an impact on kids.
Any other questions? Oh, this is?
Yes.
Oh, you have it? Okay, good.
The projectors that are going to be placed in the theaters or auditoriums,
Yeah.
is that just the video part, or is there also an audio system that's planned to go along with those?
The audio would be separate, and I've not planned for that. That to me is a bigger project. I look at FDR's sound system, it's a little dated. And audio systems are not something that I would want to design. I'm comfortable with audio systems, but that's a pretty big deal, and you really want to have an engineer come in and do that properly. I can do the visual piece because, projectors are fairly straightforward. You get the right lens, you get the right lumens, you get the right resolution, and you're in good shape. And you don't skimp on it either. But an audio system is something you want to have somebody really, really who knows what they're doing in that particular space design. So no, I've not designed an audio system for this. I do believe personally that's a place we need to go for our auditoriums. But that's not something I'm addressing at this point. It is on the wish list, I believe. And that is something where I think the tech committee could look at very closely and say, that's now a priority for us.
Okay, so
Okay.
audio isn't currently part of the plan?
Yeah, not at this point.
Yep. For the additional room drops for the network that you discussed,
Yeah.
what kind of equipment are we talking about? Because it seems like most of the equipment that we've discussed is for an educational environment already has wireless built into it.
Right. The challenge we have is when you start streaming audio. And I've spoken with our BOCES folks, with our own in-house staff and other staff, and they really do agree that once you try to do video through wireless, you get a lot of lag issues, you get a lot of buffering. If it's a wired connection, it's a lot cleaner. So we've done a couple things. We've upped our bandwidth for this coming year, sorry. We've upped our bandwidth to hopefully deal with the amount of Chromebooks that are coming in, and that's been based on recommendations. We need the additional wired port because the one port that's available in almost every classroom is used for the phone and the desktop computer. They're chained together. There's actually no way to chain a third device to that whole thing. The devices we've bought, the flat panels, are really standalone devices. They can work as a digital easel, and they can work as a web browser all on their own, but they need that wired connection in order to do that. So by putting a second internet port in the room, you can have your desktop computer and phone over here, and you can have that flat panel way over there, which is, for some reason, the way a lot of teachers like to have their room set up. You're not then tied to just having the computer as your presentation. You can use that flat panel as your presentation unit for videos. It gives more flexibility. It's just a better practice in my mind.
Good. Speaking of streaming video and streaming audio, do we have guidelines for the teachers in terms of how much streaming video and audio they're recommending their students do in the classrooms?
Not that I'm aware of.
What I'm concerned about is that a teacher says, hey, I want everybody to go out on their personal, well, not on their personal, but on their Chromebooks,
Right.
watch this YouTube video and then do something about it. And yes, that sounds like a great learning opportunity or some variant of what I'm talking about.
Right.
But you multiply the bandwidth that each video stream needs by the number of students, which is 20 or 30 in some cases, and you're going to exceed the capability of the network.
Right. So the only way I can, because I did actually, when that came out, I think in our May Tech meeting, I did go back and ask our people at CSI and BOCES that kind of question. And there's actually no really good equation for it. It's educated guesswork. Right now, we're contracting for about 200 megabits per second. We can burst up to 1 gigabit per second of bandwidth. What we've done, Forrest left some notes behind for us. We got some recommendations from CSI. We're actually in the 300 to 400 range for the coming year for contracted. So we actually should be okay. We really hovered right around 200 megabits per second all this past year. It's going to be trial and error. The nice thing is, if we find that we're really bumping up against bandwidth, we increase the request. It costs more money, but we should be okay is what I'm saying. And then we just have to watch it with the teachers too. We find out that everyone's showing video third period and it's grinding our network to a halt. That to me is just, hey gang, here's what's happening. This is a reality check. What can we do about it differently?
Yeah, I'm not so much concerned about total bandwidth into the district. I'm worried about the case where there's one room,
Yeah.
where that's the assignment for the day or
Yeah.
the activity for the day.
And it could be.
And I think our internal network might choke on that, but
It might. And
I
again,
understand it's a
trial and error.
trial and error.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's worth putting, we could think about a few guidelines, just to raise the awareness level so that, people don't accidentally do it. It may be worth a little communication with the staff, I think.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
feels like a good conversation to have with Mr. Shaw.
Yep.
And Mary Ann Silke is really kind of taking the lead on the whole Chromebook
Yep.
piece for Howland. That's why I keep bringing
Yeah.
up her name. So I will talk with them tomorrow when I see them at retreat.
Yeah, that's great.
Good, thank you.
Worth mentioning.
How long do we have to spend the money that was part of the Smart Schools?
Everything I've been reading in the guidance document says there is no time limit. So we
No
have
end
time.
date.
No end date. The money doesn't go away. So we can take our time with it. So,
Do we get cost of living increases?
no,
Yeah, that's the problem.
yeah, yeah, that is the problem, actually.
Um,
Technology, it might work in our favor as the costs of devices come down and down and down, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, against the cost of inflation where, so, do you have an idea of how many Windows machines we have left in the district?
Oh, I wish you would ask me this question in about a month, because we have this cool new program that will actually inventory all of our equipment for us, tell us the BIOS age, the whole bit. And we purchased that very purposefully, because I really want to have a good idea of how old our equipment is. I want to come up with a cycling plan, so we're always staying ahead of the game, so we're not falling behind. We don't find ourselves at 1 year we need $500,000 worth of equipment. I can't answer that question right now because we're in summer mode, and most of the equipment is unplugged. When school gets back in session, we'll be running those pads, is what they're called. And as we collect that information, I'll be able to give you a really good picture of what's out there, what the age is, and what the plan is going to be for keeping our fleet up to date. Right now, I can't give that to you.
Okay.
I could give you a guess, but it would not be even probably close to reality.
I've seen software like that before. Does it also give you an inventory of the software
Yes.
that's installed on the machine? So in
It's
addition
very
to
thorough.
hardware requirements, you'll have licensing requirements as well.
Yeah, it's very thorough. We're looking forward to really trying it out.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Thanks,
Okay,
Rick.
well, this is a public hearing. Is anybody in the public here have any questions or want to make a comment?
I actually have two questions.
If you could,
Excellent.
just so the people in television land can see you, if you could stand at the mic. I know it's sometimes a little scary, but it's all right. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Julia. I'm actually here from Barnes & Noble Poughkeepsie. So one question was whether or not the Technology Committee had ever discussed introducing tablets in a one-to-one initiative, and two, with the introduction of technology into your classrooms, are you planning to transition to e-textbooks and digital versions of books?
So, a little history for me is I'm relatively new to this position, so I'm looking at Steve and Doug and other people on the tech committee. They might be better suited to answer that
Yeah.
question than I would.
We did look at tablets, and in fact, we looked at iPads, and the distributor at the time told us that they, even though they sold them, didn't feel that that particular tablet at the time we looked at it was as good a choice as other choices might be. So that's what I remember.
Yeah, so we looked at least two different kinds of tablets. One was the iPad, and the other was a non-Apple device. I can't remember the operating system. But based on the recommendations that we were seeing from other school districts around the country, it didn't look like tablets were working very well for content creation.
And cost difference, too.
Right, there was also a cost difference. And also, to a degree, the robustness and the dependability of the hardware was different. So tablets, we ruled out fairly quickly. So at that point, it was a matter of what kind of a laptop form factor
Right.
we could do affordably.
There's also a lot of advantages to having Google with the various functions that they supply for free. It makes it very, nice for school districts that don't have to buy a word processor, they don't have to buy publishers, and they don't have to, because they're included in, they don't have to have cloud service because we have Google Drive and we have all these other things that come with it, plus the classroom function. There's a lot of work that they've done that make it very attractive
Yes, I'm just playing devil's advocate
Okay.
because our Nook devices obviously are Android devices. They come fitted with all of the Google apps that you will be utilizing at half the cost.
Yeah.
So clearly, I
Okay.
just came in at the wrong
Yeah.
time.
Our videographer is complaining that he can't hear you unless you're at the mic on those things, but we won't make it repeated.
Yeah. One of the other things too, you know, in my work in technology and observing my colleagues throughout the state is we have a technology committee because we recognize that technology is very fluid, and there were a lot of districts that said, no, we're only a tablet district, or we're only a Chromebook district, and you know they got this sense that they had to lock themselves into. But it could very well be that as you move into the high school, there may be some courses or some situations where you say, for this area, we want a tablet. So what we've determined is that our one-to-one device, as we're rolling it out, is Chromebooks. But, you know, we have a pretty good committee that also, you know, isn't locked in and knows that, you know, we need to remain fluid. So right now we're Chromebooks to roll it out at the middle level, and a lot of decisions were made. The durability, even the battery life was a consideration, and all kinds of things. So.
And
then-
tablets aren't ruled out. We actually do have quite a few tablets in the district, and I know that our librarians are very much interested in using tablets as e-readers, to answer your other question. As a whole-scale textbook, I don't believe we've gone there yet, but that's certainly an option I'm interested in.
Yeah.
If you're
So
willing to
we should,
explore,
give me a call.
yes,
So-
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think several of us have been advocating for digital textbooks for several years now.
Yep.
My current impression is that digital textbooks don't save us any money at all.
Not right now.
Well, they could, if you could order parts of books, like they do in college. My daughter,
Yep.
last year, instead of buying a whole textbook, she took certain chapters that the professor said that's the ones that you have to do. She only purchased those online, read it online, that was it. If you could do that, well, that'll save money.
Yeah.
That's a possibility, but I remain with my original statement that we have not seen any textbook purchases come through our meetings where there was a financial advantage
That's
to getting the
Yeah.
digital version.
The full versions, there's virtually no difference.
Now, having
Sometimes they're more expensive.
Having
actually.
said that, now that we're moving to one-to-one, I think that it makes sense to start moving to digital versions only because then we don't have to maintain the physical copies. Everybody can carry it around in their digital device, and since everybody's going to have one, no one then can lose or otherwise deface a physical copy. It is a frustration to me because 5 or 6 years ago, the thought process was that as you get rid of textbooks, physical textbooks, you replace it with digital copies, which would be a fraction of the cost, and so you could use the money that you were no longer spending on textbooks to fund the purchase of hardware.
Technology.
And that has not turned out to be the case, at least not yet.
Anybody else in the audience? Thank you for speaking up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Rick, I guess,
Thank you, sir.
thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Right.
Thanks, Rick.
At this time, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Brings us to Pride. You got some?
Okay, I do. I'd like to also, again, thank the volunteers, and we couldn't have done it without Liam, and we'll catch up with the other individuals. But thank you very much. Real community service that provided an invaluable function for our technology initiative. So just a couple of things. 6th grade orientation was Monday night. Freshman orientation is next Monday night. Fall sports are in full swing as far as practices. Rick mentioned the NiceGate Google event, which is really regional, and that's next Monday. If somebody wanted to poke their nose in, I think it's going to be fascinating to see a Google camp right in our own backyard at the Wallace Center. Next week is also new teacher orientation, and I see a couple of people here that will give a shout out. We certainly have Marion and Christine Mance here who are being appointed tonight. Marion, give a wave. So sorry, we'll do it again. We got the camera on you now. Marion.
There you go.
And Christine Mance. And there'll be a formal section later under the personnel, but we're happy you're here. And I was hanging out with these two earlier this evening. That was fun. And so, again, new teacher orientation. And then just, Haviland was mentioned, and the Haviland Heating Project is really winding down and coming to completion. So it'll be another successful project that's coming in on time, within budget, and certainly took a really concerted effort, because with construction comes extra cleaning. And I got a few interesting statistics today. The facilities and operations crew covered 265,000 square feet of building that was clean top to bottom. And the transportation department between July 7th and August 22nd transported approximately 625 kids a day, because we certainly have our own programs, then we have students who are out of district placement. So we covered a lot of territory this summer, and we're really pleased that as we go through the buildings, they look better than ever, and really getting ready for our students. So we're excited.
Did we mention camp convention last time? Can't remember.
I can't remember if we mentioned Camp Invention. This is, I think, our third or fourth year of Camp Invention,
Right.
And we had I think we did. Because this
Okay.
year we had sixth graders there.
Yep. Okay. Does anybody else have any pride? Do anything good on vacation? No? You want to share? Oh, okay. All right. Let's move along. So we've done the technology contribution
Right.
things, more or less, right? So we'll move to the superintendent's report.
Yeah, and I'll just reiterate, the Haviland Heating Project is on time, and we'll be able to open up the doors for the students, and Crum Elbow Road will be open. Unless something unforeseen happens. We've been notified that Crum Elbow Road will be reopened, which will help a lot of us. Oh, sorry, Mike. And but we are told that Crum Elbow, when they say they'll be open, they mean for students. That means September 8th, not 6th, not 7th. They want right up until September 8th when we run the buses.
Right. Yeah, they still got to work. You want to mention the transportation opening?
Oh,
date?
yeah. We've had a couple of, this is the time of year where we run all kinds of professional development sessions and welcome back sessions and a lot of training. Doug and I went over to the transportation meeting last Friday. This was Doug's first visit. I go annually.
I
They
want to see
come.
the firehouse, actually.
The firehouse is beautiful.
The new one.
The new one. It is just an incredible experience to see all of our transportation employees, bus drivers, mechanics, secretaries, everybody, all in one room together.
And it's people we don't see very often.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
what's...
And so it's a lot of smiles. I give a welcome address that's, really kind of informal, but really speak to a lot of the positive things that have happened in the department, use very specific examples of, great things that our employees did over the course of last year. And then George does a full-day training. It's part of it's required, part of it's just good practice. But when you walk in there, that is the official start of the school year, is the transportation meeting in August. And I was happy that Doug was able to join me this year. I think they feel very supported, knowing that we're visible.
Okay. Moving on to 7.2. Linda, school tax levy and calculation of tax rates. Everyone's favorite presentation.
Yes. Denise is
except
going to
for
be
this year.
happy.
Except for this year.
Okay, so this is very exciting. This is actually, last year, my very first presentation to the board was on the tax levy and the rates, so I've come full circle, so I'm happy for that. Before I get into the actual calculations, I'd just like to go over the actual factors of the tax rates. There are 3 factors that affect it: it's the tax levy, the assessed values, and the equalization rates. The only factor that we control is the tax levy. That's determined during the budget season, and it was approved by the voters in May. The assessed values and the equalization rates are unknown to us until August. The assessed values are determined by each individual town, and then New York State will decide if they feel the assessments are fair, and if they're not, they assess an equalization rate other than 100%. As you may know, for the town of Hyde Park, New York State does not agree with their assessment, and I think it's because the town itself has not had its own townwide assessment since 1994. So currently this year, the equalization rate for the town of Hyde Park is 58%. That means that New York State believes that the assessed values in Hyde Park are only 58% of the true value. I'm actually going to skip to the next page to show that. So this is the actual calculation. You can see in the column that's in the middle of the page, the equalization rates. Hyde Park is the only one, like I said, that has an equalization rate that's not 100%. So because of that, we have to assign a higher tax rate to the properties within Hyde Park, the town of Hyde Park, than the other towns. Something else that happened this year is the equalization rate fell from last year. It was only 62%, but that means that New York State feels that the properties in Hyde Park increased more than they were valued at last year. So even if somebody's home is valued at $250,000 in Hyde Park last year and also this year, the effect of the tax rate is the same as if their assessment went up. So people in the town of Hyde Park will have an increase of their taxes of 2.46% in the actual rate, whereas all the other towns will have a decrease of over 4%.
Linda, before you get off
Yeah.
on, the other towns all show 100%.
Yes,
But those assessments have been done over a period of time that date back up to maybe 5 years now?
all of the, Rhinebeck had an assessment done in 2011.
5 years.
Yeah, Clinton, Pleasant Valley, and Poughkeepsie all had assessments in 2014.
But the real property values have shifted.
Yeah.
The same home purchase, costs and stuff like that have changed over that period of
Yeah.
time.
But New York State has determined that the assessed values in all 4 towns, except for Hyde Park, is accurate. So they've assessed the equalization rate of 100%.
Linda, I think you have to make clear that the reason of the change is because the percentage of the tax levy didn't change, but the percentage of the tax levy, which comes from each of the towns, is different because of the change in the equalization rate.
Yes. To actually calculate the tax rate, we apply the equalization rate to the assessed value to get the share of the tax levy.
Right.
If the equalization rate in Hyde Park was still 62%, the share of their tax levy would be lower than it is because
Right.
the
In
equalization
fact, all
rate
the
dropped.
towns would be the same, actually.
Yes, all the towns would have had the same percent
The
change.
same percentage, right.
If the equalization rate in the town of Hyde Park was still 62%, all of the tax rates for all 5 towns would have decreased by 0.09%.
Right. Right. I think it's important to get that kind of a
that is
picture out.
important.
Linda, excuse me.
Sure.
I think it's also important to mention, kind of going forward so that people understand, because Hyde Park is doing the reval this year, that it's important to mention that, when you look there at the assessed value and the true value for Hyde Park, we're basing our taxes right on that true value.
Yes.
Because of that equalization rate. So once Hyde Park properties are brought up to 100% assessment, I don't think anybody's going to be, I think people are going to be surprised to find out that their portion of the taxes is very similar to what it's always been.
Yes, it will be.
It's going to stay the same, and I think that's what people don't understand
Yeah.
going forward.
When New York State looks at the assessed values, they look at the town as a whole, so they're
Right.
just saying it's 58%. So when we do have the town-wide assessment, I'm sure there will be properties whose assessments go up higher than other properties. Since the last townwide assessment was 1994, I don't think too many properties will decrease in value, but there may be some.
Right,
But the overall change, you're absolutely right, will not change much from what it is right now.
Right, I only mention it because I know that you're probably getting the phone calls. I mean, or you will from Clinton residents, right? I mean, they're the ones that were complaining that Hyde Park wasn't assessed at 100% because they thought they weren't paying their appropriate portion of the school taxes.
Right.
And stuff. So I think our Clinton residents are going to be surprised to find out that their taxes aren't necessarily going to go down, and the Hyde Park residents are going to be surprised to find out that theirs aren't necessarily
Well,
going to go
No,
up.
the
Well, this-
town of Clinton, they're going to go down,
Yeah, I have a slide
But they
later
can't go
on.
down that much.
4%.
Well, no, I mean, once the reval is done.
Just talking next year.
Yeah, I'm talking next year.
You're
So, I
talking
mean,
next-
I know I'm ahead of the game, but I think it's important for you to constantly
Yeah.
Well,
point that out, because that's the equalization rate is what
Right.
the Clinton residents don't understand, and that is now being, the Hyde Park residents, it's going to come into question that a lot.
Right. The equalization rate, when it'll really just affect the tax rate.
Right.
So the actual taxes that people pay will not change that much other than the regular increase for
Right.
whatever our tax levy is next year. As long as New York State agrees
I was just
that
going to
the
ask you, they're
assessment
going to have to agree,
is-
right?
That's true.
I would imagine that they are. I think one of the biggest factor they look at is when the last townwide assessment is done.
Okay.
Linda,
Sure.
I know at least we were asked to provide a board member to attend the meeting that the town had on its reeval. I guess the question wanted to ask, but I haven't had an opportunity, fortunately, because I've been out of town, vacationing and all those good things. How does the time frame for the town's reassessment line up with our tax levies? Is it going to be in effect next year, or is it going to be the year after that?
Yeah, I've been away too, so I don't have that information yet, but I do have a phone call to return to the town. So I'm assuming that they were calling to talk to me about that.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding from Aileen, the town supervisor, is that they're going to try and have this done in the November time period, where they,
November of this year?
yes.
So we would have that information then for next year's
What?
taxes.
Started, at least.
Start it, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, start.
Start it, yes. Because they're also looking for some space, because the people who come in to do it, they don't have extra office space in the town hall, so they were asking if we had some space for a couple months, and we're looking to see if we have an appropriate space where we can put some people in while they work on it.
And
Just a nice
yeah.
neighborly gesture.
I've never been involved in a town's assessment, so I'm not sure how long it takes from start to finish. I know that for a while, someone like Clinton, I think, had a reassessment done a few years in a row,
Yes, they did.
but for Hyde Park is bigger, and because it's been so long, I'm assuming it may just take more time.
I've been through the last one, and it doesn't come anywhere near as quickly as you would hope it comes. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, but we don't receive the assessed values until August. So they may have time to have it completed before next year's tax rates are.
Well, I'm just thinking
calculated.
about us speaking to the impact of that reassessment if we don't have the figures till,
Yeah, we never have
August.
we never have the figures until August.
I
Even during-
understand, but
yeah,
we've been dealing with the constant up till now.
Yeah,
As you know, there are several outspoken citizens in the district
yeah,
tax-paying area that have made significant claims of disproportionate assessments based on, we're not talking the 2% difference or a 4% difference, we're talking 50% differences and stuff like that, so. Those things, I'm sure, are going to slow the process down if they do exist.
Yeah, I think the first year after the reassessment, it may be shocking for some people that live in Hyde Park if their assessments increase at a higher rate than their
I know.
neighbors would.
I remember at one point there was a discussion where the suggestion was made, I don't think it was followed, was that the results of the assessment be published and available for people to look at the impact, but not be implemented until the year after that, because of the significant changes beyond the scope you expect. 80% of people were very happy, 20% of the people were in
Well,
constant turmoil.
They're going to have a lot of fun at grievance day. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
things change, people are going to complain.
Okay, so are there any more questions about this slide? This is the actual calculation before I move on. Oh, okay. So this is just a comparison of the assessed values to last year. I do put the presentation on the website afterwards, so it's information that I thought some of the taxpayers might like to see. Overall, the assessed values in all 5 towns increased. There is a decrease in the assessment in Hyde Park, but because of the equalization rate, that didn't cause the taxes to decrease. And in fact, here you can see this is the share of the tax levy for each town. And because the equalization rate for Hyde Park decreased from 62% last year to 58% this year, their overall share of the tax levy is higher. And that ties right into the actual tax rate increase. So the town of Hyde Park has an increase in taxes of 2.46%. That's the tax rate. And all other towns will see a decrease in their tax rate of 4.15%. So I did a few calculations. If a home is valued at $250,000 and is in Hyde Park, the taxes will increase about $237. For all the other towns, the taxes will decrease $248. But again, we are receiving, if you qualify for STAR, you'll receive the $130 rebate check from New York State. Are there questions about the actual change in the tax rate? Good. Yeah. So the STAR tax relief is changing. For anybody that has owned their house before May 1st, 2014 and received a STAR credit, or actually a STAR exemption on their tax bill, nothing changes. They'll still receive the exemption on their actual tax bill. For other people, though, they may have to they may have to actually apply for the STAR exemption through the state rather than their individual town. People that purchased their homes between May 1st, 2014 and August 1st, 2015 will have to register with New York State if they missed the 2015 STAR application deadline, or if they didn't apply at all. And anybody that purchased their home after August 1st, 2015 will have to apply for the STAR credit online, or they could call New York State too. They won't have the exemption on their tax bill, but they'll actually receive a check from New York State. So this is a really big change. I haven't heard many people talking about it, so I'm not sure how many people are aware of this.
So the implication of that is that people are going to have to pay the full boat
Yes.
payment, and then at some point
The check is in the mail.
they'll recover some of their money from a check that's in the mail.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas right now, it's an exemption on their tax bill, and then after the tax levy is set, I send in an application to New York State and they refund us. But going forward, as people sell their homes, eventually most of the refunds will have to be obtained directly from the state. It makes me wonder if the state thinks that some people might not apply. So, I don't really know why there's a change.
There's got to be a devious method here.
There's something.
Probably true.
Okay, this is just the list of the maximum STAR savings for 16-17. Like I said before, I'll be putting this presentation on our website, so I just wanted our taxpayers to have this information. The amount of the eligible STAR does change from town to town. Also in 2016, we have the property tax relief credit. Over the last few years, we had a credit that was tied to the actual tax cap and the shared services. This is just tied to the actual tax cap. So as long as your district, which Hyde Park is, in compliance with the tax cap, and you also receive STAR and earn less than $275,000, you'll receive a check from New York State of $130. This tax credit is extended through 2019, but for the next 3 years, it's actually a percentage of the amount. It's based on income and a percentage of what you're entitled to for STAR. We collect taxes here for the towns of Clinton, Rhinebeck, and Pleasant Valley. We do accept payments online. There will be a link on our website under Quick Links, and it's also under the Business Office tab. Taxpayers that live in the town of Poughkeepsie can also pay taxes online directly to the town. They can do it through the town of Poughkeepsie website. As far as I know, the town of Hyde Park is still not accepting online payments, but they could look up their actual tax amount online that is available. And tax collection will be from September 12th through October 11th with no penalty. There's a 2% penalty from October 12th through November 1st. And again, this year, the town of Hyde Park is charging a processing fee for the residents within the town. This is the end of the presentation. Whoops. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Any questions? Thank you, Linda.
Okay, thank you.
From here on in, they're easy. For the rest of the year, they're easy. Okay. That brings us to, hold on, like it. Public participation. May I have a motion to enter public participation, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. At this time, we're in public participation. If anybody would like to address the board, please step up to the mic, give us your name, and we will listen. Any takers? And going. Can I have a motion to exit
So moved.
public
Second.
participation? Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And I have a motion on 10.1, action on consent agenda, please.
Skipping over 9.
What did I say? Oh, well, there's a reason for that, right?
Please skip 9.1. Please skip 9.1.
Okay.
Modify the
Yeah.
board agenda.
No. Before you get a little bent here, what I wanted was, this is an introduction so that we can discuss it at the next meeting. I just wanted to get the fact out that the board goals are necessary. I believe Debbie put a little thing about setting goals as a kind of a primer for the newer board members. I just want, I didn't want to discuss board goals tonight. I just wanted to get you in the mood so that when I send something out for next meeting, plan on discussing board goals, all right? You're off the hook for this meeting, but for next meeting, we are going to have a discussion, all right? And unless anybody would like to have that discussion tonight, I don't think I see anybody.
I do have a question.
Okay.
It's kind of an embarrassing question, but what's the vision and mission statements for the district?
Right there.
They're right behind you. They're also,
And on all correspondence too.
If you shine your Chromebook, you can see it.
yeah,
Okay.
they're also in the document I think we sent, right?
We actually, as an administrative
Aren't they
team,
in the beginning?
use the mission
I
and
know,
vision
okay.
statements a lot. In fact, a lot of the correspondence underneath someone's signature line is, "We're curious, confident, courageous." That's the vision. We use the embrace our globally connected world very frequently. That's what our strategic plan is based on. So as much as possible, we try to keep it something that's at the forefront. the administrators, when they give their presentations, start with the mission statement. So we try to keep it as live as possible in our coherence strategic planning this year. We started by discussing the district mission and vision, and it was determined that it was so recently developed that it was not time to revisit that again, that it can take us through the next 5 years easily.
Thank you.
Okay. So your homework is to actually pay attention to the NSBA information on setting goals. A, they want to be achievable, and boards that the board can achieve. Not, they shouldn't be goals to say the superintendent should investigate having a swimming pool, and that's not a goal. That's not a board goal. All right. All right.
Just find the one we already have.
I know, I heard it was under the gym floor.
It's in the library.
Well,
It's in the library.
we would have one, but we have a projector now that's going to go down on the floor.
We're going to have a virtual swimming pool.
Yeah, so we'll have a virtual one. Yeah. All right.
Synchronized swimming and
All right.
everything.
So I'm, if you're all okay, I'm going to move on here and go on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda, please? 10.1.
Second.
Can I have a second? Did I have a second?
Yep.
Any discussion? We have some.
Yeah.
Yes?
I would like to say that a part of the consent agenda is the personnel attachment. And so at this point, I'm going to say, Marion, congratulations, as soon as they vote on the consent agenda.
Welcome.
It will be official. Marion is not a stranger to us. She's been with us a number of years, and she has moved from a teaching assistant to a teaching position, remaining at Netherwood. And so a huge vote of confidence by the peers in the administration who have worked with Marion for a number of years. So Marion, welcome, and congratulations on the moving up. Another great and interesting story is Christine Mance, who has been with us for a number of years. Christine was a certified social studies teacher, I believe, and then switched gears and was working at Violet Avenue Elementary School for a couple of years and as a secretary, and finished up her ESL teaching certificate. It is an area of high demand, and what was really interesting is Christine actually works in one of our buildings that has our ESL students. So again, a full vote of confidence by the colleagues who said, we can't wait until she finally gets this certificate. We hope that we have an opening, and it was pretty unanimous that Christine would be the choice. So it's unique that two of the people that we're appointing tonight were with us in other roles, and that's a live interview for a long time. And so I just point you both out, so welcome.
I'd like to say, I hope you have another replacement person who's smiling. I like to see the smiling face when I come in the building. I'm used to this, and now you're leaving me.
Yeah,
But you will be in the building.
I'll be in other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Sharon's going to
Nobody
object.
consulted me.
Sharon doesn't have a vote, but she's going to object when you vote.
All right, I guess we had a vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? No? Thank you.
Gavel hits the ground.
Yeah.
Official.
That brings us to 11.1. May I have a motion for the special education placements, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, Dan?
I've reviewed the packet and recommend its adoption as presented.
Thank you.
And
All in
appreciative
favor?
of the work that's been done this year to keep them in a level plane as opposed to previous years when you get super packages and then small packages. This year, we haven't seen any of those, which has been a big help.
That's great. That's great. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Have a motion for 11.2, the increase employee benefit accrued liability reserve fund, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Linda, do you want to explain any of that, or it's since it is a big number?
Yeah, it is a big number. We are able to reserve for what we call the compensated absences. It's payouts that we would make when somebody leaves the district. We typically owe people for vacation time they've accrued. And when someone retires, depending on what unit they're in, we may also owe them for sick time that they've accrued.
Okay.
In the past, we always reserved for the amount for people that were actually eligible to retire at that time. We have new auditors, and they suggested that we reserve for anybody that is likely to retire from the district. So we
Okay.
changed the calculation to reflect
All right.
that.
So this is a recommendation from our external auditor.
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Just
Oh.
quick question. How do you determine likely?
We chose for it was all in teaching staff. We chose 15 years. If somebody's worked here for 15 years, we're assuming they're going to stay until the end, until they retire.
Okay. Any other question? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.3, reduction of the tax reserve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Also a recommendation from the external auditor, correct?
That's actually, I had made the recommendation in
Recommendation
June.
before, yeah,
And then I
okay.
found out new information after.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.4, confirmation of tax rolls and authorization of the tax levy.
So
No.
moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.5, authorization to close completed capital project and authorize transfer of funds into the debt service fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.6, authorization to close completed capital project and authorize transfer of funds to the capital projects fund.
So moved. It's,
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
wait, didn't you, according to this, it says to the general fund?
Yeah. It's actually
Okay.
supposed to be closed from the capital projects to the general.
To the general fund. Ah,
Okay.
typo, yes. Okay, in the,
Oh, yeah, but because it's a negative amount, we're moving the money into capital.
okay,
No, yeah, sorry, it's a terminology.
thank you. All in favor? And opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.7, waiver of conflict of interest. This has to do with our lawyers who also represent the town.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah. So this is an agreement that we're signing to effectively acknowledge a potential conflict of interest, right?
Yeah.
So if and when an actual conflict of interest crops up, they'll inform us. If my reading was done with acuity?
It's saying that we're waiving that we're basically waiving that there is a conflict of interest. We're agreeing to say on this one item, we're going to use the same attorney to represent both of us. And we can't go back to them and say, you acted more in favor or with bias for the town, and the town can't say, you didn't fairly represent us. So it's just a way of saying we're both agreeing to use the same attorney. Usually when you do a contract, you both have your separate attorneys review it, And this is such a minor item that instead of saying, we're going to go out and get a different attorney, or the town saying they have to go out and get a different attorney to come up with this one contract, we're both saying we agree that we recognize that when you have two parties that are looking at a contract, there could be a conflict of interest if you have one attorney working for both parties, and we're waiving that. Does that make
For
it
this one.
clear as mud?
And it's
just
only
this-
for the security
It's just
coverage?
Just
for
for this
this
one item.
one,
Just for those
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And this one has changed this year, right, as who we negotiated and who's signing that contract? Wasn't this one, is this the one where the police officers used to sign individually as consultants and now?
Yeah.
For here.
Yes, what we want, what this is about is that we don't want to contract with individual police officers 3 times a year to say we need a football game covered, and we were signing individual contracts with police officers, and we feel that we were in jeopardy because then they're not working for the town of Hyde Park Police at that point. We're employing them. And we've had discussions where we really feel that when we have a police officer present, we want them working for the town of Hyde Park Police, not on a separate individual contract with all the different police officers. So the attorney is going to work with the town to draft a contract, and basically what we're going to do is pay the town of Hyde Park overtime to have police officers cover our games and graduation.
Because they were in uniform.
They were in uniform,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, this is a good thing.
Actually, and the police officers were feeling that they were open to liability, not having the auspices of the town of Hyde Park Police as their employer when they're working a game.
And we feel that this is going to be limited primarily to discussions about cost.
The cost is pretty clear, because it's the overtime rate. It's, yeah, so we're not negotiating costs through this. We're just,
we're saying
they're going
whatever
to
the rate
develop a
is.
contract and say, here's the form that we fill out to tell the town of Hyde Park Police, we want these officers, and we recognize it might be overtime.
Okay, so it's primarily working out the logistics and the detail
Process.
of making it happen. It's not going to be a statement about liabilities or securities.
Nope. And it's not even about cost, so we're not negotiating costs. The cost is
Whatever
the
it
overtime
is.
cost for a police officer.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's pretty much going to be maybe it'll get to be a double-sided piece of paper.
All right, any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We have a motion for 11.8, appointment of deputy treasurer. Have a motion, please. Anything?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to point out that Danielle is here, so give a wave, Danielle. Danielle is very quickly working her way up through the ranks in the
Right.
business office, going to college diligently at Marist, and making steady progress. She's been promoted in a very short period of time, and
Right. And I will hold to my statement of last year. Your mother will be working for you someday. Yes. Yes. uh-huh. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Can I have a motion for 11.9, nursing service agreement, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, one question.
Okay.
I see an hourly rate, but there's no top end to this. Is that correct? Is there there's no limit as to what this contract value could be? Is that true?
I don't have the document open, Linda. Do you know if there's a max? Because frequently we do have a up to.
Yeah, usually we do. And this one, I I didn't see a top end.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the nursing
Yeah,
agreement?
I didn't
I
bring my
thought-
computer and I don't.
I thought we didn't put a max amount on for that because it depends on if a student needs services.
Yeah, from my standpoint, I mean, and I'm willing to support it the way it is, but in the future, I'd like to see at least maximum limits, just so that we can, it creates a threshold where we bring it back and discuss it again, because, you know, is it $2,000 or $200,000? There's no, yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that. There are some services where we put a cap.
Yeah,
Like-
actually,
Most,
we
yeah. Yeah.
we do have a cap, but,
Yeah, in fact, the police one that we used to do individually was up to $4,000.
yeah.
Okay.
Not that we were wrong.
Can you give us a general understanding of what these nursing services would be for?
Aviva would.
Yeah, I don't have all the detail that Heather does, but, you know, it's for a student in need of nursing care that hasn't always needed nursing care. We hope in the future won't always, but right now does. So it's only during school day. It's parents' insurance or Medicaid that covers evening, but during school hours. And it's something that's required for us, for students who need that.
Okay, so it's for a specific student, it's not for
It's for one student.
substitute nurses or some...
Correct. It's for one
service?
student.
Okay.
So, we didn't vote, right? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.10, the Astor Early Childhood Program Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.11, Professional Services Agreement, Generation Ready Incorporated.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on that? Like, what's the $70,000 for? Yes.
Yeah, that, well, I'll let Aviva take it, yeah.
$7,000, so
Yeah.
just-
It's 70, yeah.
Yeah.
These are the consultants that come out of Teachers College. We originally started working with them when we received some bullet aid, and were able to actually utilize almost double the amount of days, you know, because we had that bullet aid this past year, and, you know, just received some conclusion reports from them that were just outstanding. Some of the money is in some of our federal grants, and it was budgeted for as professional development for teachers. We're really focusing on kindergarten through second grade, with the goal of all kids reading at benchmark by the end of second grade. So they've just proven, I mean, they really are the best, if not in the world, certainly in the country.
Basically, literacy coaches out of NYU.
Oh, sorry, Columbia.
Columbia.
Teachers
sorry.
College, yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, NYU is great, too.
They would be really upset if I made that. They would be really upset. They would definitely be upset.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion for 11.12, side agreement with the HPTA.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Page down here. May I have a motion for 11.13, the Smart Schools Investment Plan?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Well, we're back to public participation again. I have a motion to enter public participation, please.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We're now in an executive session. If anybody would like to address the board, it's your second
Executive
chance.
session? You went to executive.
Not even
I thought
Mr.
we were in
Hughes?
public participation.
All right.
You said executive session.
Oh, I did. You know, it's,
See, we're paying attention, Dan.
I was going to say it's late, but it's not. It's not so. All right.
Just out of.
Excuse me. Public participation.
Just telling him around his night so I can see what he's saying.
Sorry. Okay. can I have a motion to exit public participation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? I guess there's nobody opposed. Are there any other matters deemed necessary by the board? I have none. Anybody have anything?
Let them go.
Okay, then we'll move on. Are there any board subcommittee reports? The only one might be Perry. Wasn't there a School Boards Association meeting? Was that? Oh, that's coming up. That's, yeah, it's not for the summer. I remember getting the
Yeah,
note.
it's
Yeah,
later,
okay.
it's a week later than typical.
Right, right. Okay. And I don't think there was any other, unless it was tech committee meeting, was there any?
There was, I couldn't make it.
Oh. I was not there, so, okay. There is no need for a second executive session?
So moved.
Oh, you want to go in again? Oh. Have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Do I have a second? No second?
Second.
Oh, okay. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Very contentious.
Don't forget to sign the tax warrants.
Right.